helping an autistic husband understand Cassandra syndrome. Has your wife ever tried to explain a feeling to you and you just couldn't quite grasp it? Do you ever feel like you're speaking different languages, even though you're using the exact same words? Maybe you've been in a conversation that suddenly blew up. You're left confused, trying to logically retrace the steps to figure out what went wrong, while she's left feeling hurt and completely unheard. You want to fix it. You want to understand. But it feels like you don't have the right tools, or maybe even the right words, to bridge what feels like a growing divide. This isn't about blame. It's not about one person being right and the other being wrong. What you might be experiencing is a dynamic so common in neurodiverse relationships that it actually has a name: Cassandra syndrome. In this video, we're not pointing fingers. We're handing you a practical guide, a clear and logical roadmap to understanding what your wife might be going through. More importantly, we're going to give you concrete things you can do, strategies you can start using today to translate her emotional language, close that communication gap, and start rebuilding the connection you both want. Stay with me, because getting this one concept could be the most important step you ever take for your marriage. So, let's get right to it. What exactly is Cassandra syndrome? First off, you won't find this in any medical textbook. It's not an official diagnosis. Think of it less like a disorder and more like a name for a specific painful experience in a relationship. The term was made popular by a relationship counselor named Maxine Aston, who works with couples just like you. She needed a way to describe the deep emotional and psychological distress that neurotypical partners, in this case your wife, often feel when they're married to an autistic partner. The name comes from Greek mythology, and it's a really powerful analogy. In the myth, Cassandra was a princess who was given the gift of prophecy. She could see the future with perfect clarity. But when she rejected a god, he cursed her. The curse wasn't that she'd be wrong. In fact, her visions were always true. The curse was that no one would ever believe her. She tried to warn everyone about the destruction of her city, but they just dismissed her, laughed at her, and treated her like she was crazy. That is the absolute core of Cassandra syndrome. It's the experience of knowing you are telling the truth about your reality, your feelings, your pain, and being consistently disbelieved or told that your reality is wrong. For your wife, it's not about seeing the future. It's about trying to describe her emotional reality right now and feeling like she's screaming into a void. She might say, "I feel so lonely in this marriage," or "I feel disconnected from you." And because you, from your logical point of view, are present, loyal, and providing for the family, you might not get it. You might even counter her feeling with facts. "But I'm right here. We spent the whole day together." From your perspective, you've solved the equation. You've addressed her statement with evidence. But from her perspective, her core feeling was just dismissed. This isn't a one-time thing. Cassandra syndrome grows out of a chronic, ongoing pattern of these disconnects. It's the built-up effect of hundreds, maybe thousands, of these small moments. It's also worth knowing that the professionals who recognize this see it as a form of complex relationship trauma. Unlike the PTSD you hear about from a single event, this comes from repeated, long-term stress inside a relationship. The trauma isn't caused by anything obvious like abuse or cruelty. It's caused by what's missing: a steady lack of emotional back and forth, a feeling of being emotionally invisible, and a deep loneliness inside the most important relationship of her life. It's a kind of emotional starvation. To make matters worse, to the outside world, your marriage might look perfect. You're likely a successful, smart, and responsible man. You may be very good at masking your autistic traits at work or in social settings. So, when your wife tries to explain her pain to friends, family, or even therapists who don't get neurodiversity, they might not see it. They see a great guy and a great life, and they say things like, "He's such a good husband, you're so lucky," or "All marriages are hard." This just makes her feel even more alone. It proves that Cassandra feeling right, "I'm telling the truth about my pain, and nobody believes me." Understanding this isn't about taking the blame. As an autistic man, you are not trying to cause her pain. This disconnect isn't born from a lack of love. It's born from a fundamental difference in how your brains are wired. But the impact on her is real. Acknowledging that her experience is real and even has a name is the first, most powerful step you can take. It tells her that you finally see her, that you believe her, and that you're willing to learn her language. Now, after hearing all that, it would be easy to feel defensive. It might sound like I'm saying this is all your fault. I need to be crystal clear. That is not what this is about. To really get what's happening, we have to throw the whole idea of blame in the trash and embrace a concept called the double empathy problem. This theory was developed by an autistic researcher, Dr. Damian Milton. For a long time, the old idea was that autistic people had an empathy deficit. The double empathy problem flips that on its head. It says the communication gap between autistic and non-autistic people is not a one-way street. It's not just that you struggle to understand her world. It's that she also struggles to understand yours. It's a double problem, a mutual misunderstanding. Think of it this way. Imagine you're a native English speaker and your wife is a native Japanese speaker. You're put in a room together with no translator. You'd both try to communicate. You'd point, you'd use gestures, you'd probably speak your own language slowly and loudly, hoping it would help. She'd do the same. But in the end, you would both fail to truly get each other's deeper thoughts, feelings, and intentions. Would it be fair to say the English speaker has a communication problem? Or the Japanese speaker? No, of course not. The problem isn't with either person. The problem is in the space between them. The breakdown is mutual. This is what happens in a neurodiverse marriage. Your brain and your wife's brain have different native operating systems. Your autistic brain is likely wired for bottom-up, logical, pattern-based thinking. You process the world through systems, facts, and details. You probably communicate very directly and literally, and you expect that in return. You might miss the nonverbal stuff, the small shifts in tone, the body language, the look in her eyes. Not because you don't care, but because your brain isn't naturally built to prioritize that information. Your wife's neurotypical brain, on the other hand, is likely wired for top-down, intuitive social processing. She communicates in more subtle ways, relying heavily on that nonverbal data, the tone, the context, the feeling behind the words. For her, how something is said is often more important than the literal words used. Neither operating system is better. They're just different. But when you try to interact without knowing about these differences, and without trying to translate, things fall apart. She might walk in and say with a sigh, "It's a beautiful day." She isn't just giving a weather report. That sigh, that tone. It's a bid for connection. She might be implicitly saying, "I'm feeling a little down, and I really wish we could just go for a walk and connect." But you, hearing it literally, might just glance outside and say, "Yes, it is," and go right back to what you were doing. In that one moment, she feels rejected. You feel confused because you answered the question she asked. Both of you are left frustrated. That is the double empathy problem in action. She is failing to empathize with your need for direct communication. You are failing to empathize with her need for emotional connection. Understanding this should feel liberating because it takes the burden of blame off your shoulders. Her pain is not a judgment on your character. Your confusion is not a sign that she is irrational. It's the predictable result of two different kinds of brains trying to talk to each other without a shared manual. So, the responsibility for fixing this isn't just on you to act neurotypical, and it's not on her to suck it up. The solution is for both of you to admit you speak different languages and agree to become bilingual. This video, this is your first phrasebook. It's about giving you the tools to start translating her language so you can finally understand the messages she's been trying to send all along. To really commit to learning a new language, you have to understand why it's so important. You need to get the reality of what your wife might be experiencing every day. This isn't to make you feel guilty. This is about giving you the data. For a logical mind, understanding the full picture of the problem is what motivates the search for a solution. So, let's look at the internal world of a woman living with Cassandra syndrome. This isn't just about her feeling sad or frustrated sometimes. It's a deep, corrosive experience that can damage her mental, emotional, and even physical health. First, think about the mental and emotional toll. Women in this spot often live with chronic anxiety and a deep sense of confusion. The anxiety comes from walking on eggshells, never knowing when a simple comment will spark a misunderstanding. The confusion comes from the gap between the man she loves, the good, smart man she married, and the emotional void she feels. She's constantly asking herself, why can't he see me? Why doesn't he get it? This can lead to a kind of listlessness or even clinical depression. But maybe the most damaging part is the erosion of her self-esteem. When your deepest feelings are consistently ignored or invalidated, you start to doubt your own sanity. She starts to wonder, am I the crazy one? Am I asking for too much? Am I just being unreasonable? This is the crazy-making part of Cassandra syndrome. Over time, being told her reality is wrong makes her lose faith in herself. This can lead to a devastating loss of self. She might stop trying to share her feelings at all because the pain of having them dismissed is just too much. She might retreat into herself, becoming quieter and more withdrawn. Some women even say they feel like they start to lose their own personality, becoming more isolated and less social as a way to protect themselves. Then there's the social impact. As we talked about, the core wound is being disbelieved, and this often goes beyond the marriage. When she reaches out to friends or family, they don't get it. They can't square the charming, intelligent man they know with the person who is the source of her pain. This reaction from her own support system is a second layer of betrayal, leaving her feeling completely and utterly alone. Finally, you have to understand that this chronic emotional stress shows up physically. It's not just in her head. The constant state of stress and vigilance takes a real toll on the body. Many women with Cassandra syndrome report physical problems. Frequent migraines, big changes in weight, a wrecked immune system that leads to getting sick all the time, or severe PMS. Her body is literally keeping the score of the emotional deprivation. Think about it biologically. For a neurotypical brain, emotional connection with a partner is a basic need like food or water. It's a key source of safety that regulates the nervous system. When that need goes chronically unmet, her nervous system is stuck in a constant low-grade state of fight or flight. That is physically exhausting, and over time it breaks the body down. Understanding this deep, multi-layered impact is the fuel for this journey. When your wife seems angry, withdrawn, or sad, it's not an attack. It's a symptom of her pain. It's a distress signal that her fundamental need for connection is not being met. Seeing her behavior through this lens lets you respond with compassion instead of defensiveness. It lets you see her actions not as a problem to be fixed, but as a call to be answered. And with the strategies we're about to cover, you will finally have the tools to answer that call. Okay, we've defined the problem. We understand the impact. Now for the most important part, the solution. This is not about changing your fundamental personality. It's about adding new skills to your toolbox, learning a new set of rules for one specific part of your life, your marriage. Think of these as logical, actionable steps you can take to build a bridge. The biggest reason for misunderstandings is the clash between her subtle communication and your literal interpretation. The fix? You have to make the unspoken spoken. This takes effort from both of you, but you can be the one to lead the way. Your new job is to stop assuming you understand and start asking for clarification. Become a detective of her language. When she says something emotional, treat it like a puzzle you need to solve. The most powerful tool for this is active listening. This isn't just being quiet while she talks. It's a 3-step formula. Listen, process, and repeat back what you think you heard to get confirmation. Here's the magic phrase you need to memorize. So, what I think I'm hearing you say is, let's play out a scene. She says, you've been on your computer all night. It feels like you don't even care that I'm here. The old you might offer a logical defense. That's not true. I said hi when you came in, and I'm working. This just dismisses her feeling and makes things worse. The new you, using active listening, sounds like this. Okay, let me make sure I get this. What I think I'm hearing you say is that because I've been focused on my computer, you're feeling ignored and lonely, and that makes you feel like I don't care about you. Is that right? See what that does. You're not agreeing that you don't care. You're not admitting you did anything wrong. You are simply holding up a mirror to her feeling to confirm you got the message correctly. This act alone is unbelievably validating. For maybe the first time, she feels truly heard. The next step is to ask clarifying questions. You need clear, direct communication, so you have to guide her to give it to you. After you use your "what I'm hearing is" phrase and she says, "Yes, that's it," your follow-up is this: "Thank you for explaining that. Can you help me understand? When you say you need me to be more present, what would that actually look like?" This question is genius. You are asking for a concrete, actionable definition of a vague emotional idea. You're asking her to translate her feeling into a set of instructions you can follow. She might say, "Maybe we could put our phones away for 15 minutes when we both get home and just talk about our day." Suddenly, you have a solvable problem. Be more present is confusing. Put devices away for 15 minutes is a clear rule you can follow. You are teaching her how to speak your language. For a brain that thrives on predictability, emotional conversations can feel like an ambush. They seem to pop up out of nowhere and are full of intense feelings. The solution is to create a safe, predictable time for them, the scheduled check-in. This is a dedicated time you put on the calendar, like a meeting, where the only agenda is the health of your relationship. Maybe it's every Sunday for 30 minutes. The key is that it's regular, it's expected, and it has clear boundaries. This works for two big reasons. First, it stops emotional pressure from building up. Your wife knows she has a specific time to talk, so she's less likely to let things fester and explode. Second, it lets you prepare. You know the talk is coming. You can mentally get ready for it, which makes you less likely to feel ambushed and defensive. To make these check-ins even better, try written communication. Many neurodiverse couples find it's a total game changer to write down their thoughts in an email or a shared document before the check-in. This lets your wife get all her complex feelings out without pressure. It lets you read and process her words on your own time without trying to also decode her tone and body language. You can read a sentence 10 times if you need to. You can come to the check-in already understanding the issue, so the conversation can be about connecting and solving the problem, not just figuring out what the problem is. Many autistic men deal with something called alexithymia, which is simply a difficulty in recognizing and naming your own emotions. If you can't tell what you're feeling, it's almost impossible to understand what someone else is feeling. But here's the good news. Emotional literacy isn't some magical gift. It's a skill you can learn, just like any other. Start by getting an emotion wheel. It's a chart that shows core emotions like sad or angry in the middle, and then all the more specific feelings that branch off them. A few times a day, just pause and try to name what you're feeling. Right now, I am feeling content, or I am feeling overwhelmed. Just naming it without judgment builds new pathways in your brain. Once you get better at spotting your own emotions, you can start learning to spot them in her. Think of it as pattern recognition. Ask her for the data. When you make that specific face, what does it usually mean? Or when your voice gets that higher pitch, what emotion is that? You're gathering data points to build a better predictive model of her emotional state. This might be the most important strategy of all. If you forget everything else, remember this. The core wound of Cassandra syndrome is being disbelieved. The antidote to that wound is validation. Validation is not the same as agreement. Let me say that again. You do not have to agree with her feelings to validate them. Validation is just acknowledging that her emotional experience is real for her. It's saying, "I see what you're feeling. I accept that it's there, and from your point of view, it makes sense. Here are your new magic phrases. Asterisk. That sounds really hard. Asterisk. I can see why you would feel so hurt. Asterisk. It makes perfect sense that you're frustrated. Asterisk. Thank you for telling me that. I know it wasn't easy. Notice none of these say, "You're right. I'm a bad husband." They don't admit fault. They just validate her reality. In any emotional conversation, your first job is not to solve the problem. Your first job is to validate the feeling. Let's go back to our scene. She says, "It feels like you don't even care that I'm here." Your new protocol is validate first, problem solve second. Step 1, active listening. What I'm hearing is you're feeling lonely and like I don't care right now. Is that right? Step 2, validation. That must feel awful. I can totally understand why you'd feel that way. Seeing me zoned in on this. Step 3, reassurance. I want you to know, I do care about you. A lot. Step 4, problem solving. What could I do right now that would help you feel more connected? This 4-step process can put out almost any fire. By starting with validation, you calm her nervous system. You show her you're on her team, not her opponent. You heal the Cassandra wound by saying, "I believe you." Only then, once she feels heard, can you actually solve the problem together. Finally, you can't do this alone. This has to be a team sport. The couples who make it work are the ones who commit to learning about each other's brains together. Frame it like this. Our brains have different operating systems. I need to learn about your neurotypical OS, and it would really help our team if you learned more about my autistic OS. Read books on neurodiverse relationships together. Watch videos like this one together. Find articles about the double empathy problem and talk about them. This creates a shared language. It shifts the dynamic from you versus me to us versus the problem. The final step is to find a neurodiversity-affirming couples therapist. This is critical. A traditional therapist who doesn't get autism can actually do more harm than good, often making you feel like you're the problem that needs to be fixed. A neurodiversity-affirming therapist acts as a translator and a coach. They honor both of your experiences and give you tools specifically for you, helping you put all these strategies into practice in a safe space. That was a lot of information, and taking the first step is always the hardest. But you already took it by watching this. So now I want you to take one more small, concrete step. In the comments below, share one strategy you're going to try this week. Are you going to use the phrase, "What I'm hearing is"? Are you going to put a 20-minute check-in on the calendar? Making a public commitment is a powerful thing. And if you want to go deeper, check the description below. I've put links to resources like a printable emotion wheel and a guide to finding a qualified therapist. You don't have to figure this out alone. We've covered a lot today. We've defined Cassandra syndrome not as a weapon but as a name for a real kind of pain. We've thrown out the idea of blame by understanding the double empathy problem. And most importantly, we've laid out a practical, logical roadmap you can use to start building a bridge back to your wife. I'm going to be direct with you. This isn't easy work. It will take patience and persistence. You will mess up. You will fall back into old habits. That is okay. The goal here isn't perfection. The goal is progress. The goal is just showing up day after day and making a real effort to translate, to validate, and to connect. That effort is the most powerful gift you can give to your wife and to your marriage. It's the ultimate act of love. Because when you commit to understanding her world, you are telling her, in the clearest way possible, I see you, I hear you, I believe you, and I choose you. And that is the choice that can heal everything.